Good stuff from the Textones at 101.9 KMPC FM. They took a clean-cut kid, and they made a killer out of him. That's what they did. What a sad story. Could happen to anybody.
Strange but true.
That's right. Elvis Costello is here. 1989 marks the release of his 12th studio album.
That's right.
But who's counting? And it's called Spike, and he was nice enough to stop by and talk a little bit about it, and we'll be playing some things from the new album, Spike. And thank you for doing this. This is a thrill for me.
It's good to be here.
Do you like L.A.? Do you feel comfortable here?
Well, I had to feel comfortable here. I spent most of last year, most of last summer here making this record. We were in Dublin and New Orleans, and then most of the record was done here, and then we went back and did a little bit more in London. So it was a 4-city record, but the bulk of it was here. In fact, just down the street, I just stopped in to say hello to the studio where we did most of it. But,
right here in Hollywood?
Right here in beautiful Hollywood.
Was that a choice of yours to come here and do it?
Ocean Way Studios, I have to say, is probably one of the best studios, if not the best studio in the world, in my opinion. And I did an album called King of America in there a couple of years ago, and down also at Sunset Sound. So all on this very street.
That's great.
It's the street of dreams.
It could be the boulevard of broken dreams.
Oh, too. Yes. Talk my language.
I guess when you write as many songs as you've written, you must stop and think, did I write this before? Does that ever happen? Have I done this before?
So, yeah, you have to be a bit wary that you're not going over the same old sort of riff. There's a million subjects, there are a million subjects, and I think on this record I've got into a few that I've not been to before. Inevitably, once you start talking about love songs and things, there's just different feelings that you might get, and you know that it's a universal feeling. Then some other subject matter can be very, wildly different. So really what the main place where you can repeat yourself is in the music. And I think on this record I've gone out of my way to find some new sounds that brought these songs to life in a slightly different way than previous records.
14 new songs, I think 15 on the CD.
15 on the CD and cassette, and I'm afraid, I think of the album as that, unfortunately, due to quality.
Right.
One of the shorter tracks had to be dropped off the vinyl version. But you can get that one, even vinyl buyers out there, you can get that one on the back of the first single.
Few of you left out there.
Few of them.
You diehards. I guess the main collaborator, or the one that most people was most interested in, was Paul McCartney and Elvis Costello.
No, surely not.
Well, that's kind of...
Yeah, I suppose that... the one thing that I will say straight away is that, I appreciate, I wouldn't have asked all the other individual people, some of whom are not quite so well known, certainly not household names, if I didn't really dig them and didn't really want them to be there. And they all did a great job, but inevitably, people are going to be interested as to, how it came about.
Well, how did it come about, since you brought it up?
But, I was invited to go for a meeting with Paul about writing some songs for his record. And really, it was a very simple decision to make, do you want to write some songs? Yes.
Yes.
And then you just have to have a starting point. So the starting point for both of us was to bring something that we'd already begun individually and try and finish it off together, and that way we learned how we wrote songs. So in fact the two songs that appear on my record come from very early on in the collaboration, and then we carried on a little bit more and wrote a whole bunch of songs for his next recording project.
Oh.
So that record's coming out in a couple of months, so you may well see a couple more collaborations, some of which I believe are a little bit more 50-50 than this one. He did a great job in helping me out finishing these songs, but they're not the true collaboration, if you take my meaning, so
right.
There's still more to come. There's more to come, as they say on Johnny Carson.
So stay tuned, right.
Yeah.
I thought we'd play This Town. It's first on the album, so I thought it should be first in the interview.
Why not?
Anything you want to say about it?
Well, this is something of a first, this track. It has Mr. McCartney also kindly offered to play bass on the record on a couple of cuts, and he plays on this one. And then in New Orleans I ran into Roger McGuinn. Now, I don't believe those guys had ever played together.
I don't think so.
And I decided on this occasion, seeing as we had the two Macs playing Rickenbacker 12-string, Rickenbacker bass, that I would adopt my real name, McManus, so that there was the third Mac playing a Rickenbacker, so it's the Mackenbackers. The Mackenbackers in This Town.
Well, let's take a listen here. From Spike, Elvis Costello at 101.9 KMPC FM. Sounds great. Sounds great. Elvis Costello there in This Town from Spike, which I read you named the LP after Spike Jones, but
It's
could that be
just a rumor.
just a rumor?
And I named it after Spike the Bulldog from Tom and Jerry.
now
now that I'm on Warner Brothers, I'm naming all of the next records. Next one's after Bugs.
I see, and it's only fair that you do that. I think.
I think only fair.
Only fair.
It's the least I can do.
It is. It's the least, and that's what we like. The least that you can do. T-Bone Burnett, as you pointed out, is all over the album. And is he sort of your right hand?
Well, this is the second record that we've produced together. We've also appeared in The Mysterious Guise of the Coward Brothers on a couple of occasions, which some people will know about. He was instrumental in the direction which this record took from the outset. I asked him to be co-producer, and he said, well, you really should approach this in a different way than you've done the other record. You should bring in whatever sound you hear. Now, obviously, you have to have somebody to tell you when you're being stupid, you know. If you're just going to have, 3 trombones and a banjo, it's not always going to work, And one of the main things he said, which was very useful, was also to bring in the third co-producer, Kevin Killen, who made some sense out of some of these combinations of instruments. As you hear on that track, you've got a big electronic drum sound, which I don't normally go for, the big drum machine thing. But then you've got 2 very interesting instrumentalists like McCartney and McGuinn, who have a tremendous amount of personality, and then you've got a new blend, you've got new stuff, and there are some wilder blends of instruments in other parts of the album, But we have done several things together. We've done several tours together and stuff, and I also sort of I'm always at the other end of the phone if he's having some wild fun with some of his production projects, because he does a lot of things.
He does.
I think he produced, in fact, about 4 albums while we were doing this one. He would disappear for a day and I said, where have you been, T-Bone? Oh, I've just produced another album by Willie Dixon or Chris Christopherson.
Then I had lunch.
Yeah. I turned around one day and there was a guy came over to pick up some Chris Christopherson tapes, and standing next to him was Rod Steiger. It's like he's a guy to hang around with. If you want to meet anybody, you just meet T-Bone, and you'll probably eventually meet the rest of the world.
And you were saying that he's now working on this movie they're putting together, The Life of Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yes,
Dennis Quaid is the actor?
I believe so, yes. He did some work on the soundtrack of that one, of course, but he was very disappointed because, of course, he took the job thinking that it was the life of Jerry Lewis, and when he discovered it was the other guy, he was really inconsolable, in fact, and quit the film.
I can understand that, of course, Jerry being such a big star in France, and why is that?
I don't know. Those French people, they are strange.
They have a different word for everything.
Different word, yeah. They have at least one word for everything. I was just in France, and this will give you an idea of the kind of people that think Jerry Lewis is the funniest man on earth. They decided to interview me and then have me ask myself the questions, so that in the final edited film that they were going to show them, that I would be interviewing myself. You can understand, they said,
that's a riot.
The guy said to me, so is it true you ate French people? And I said, no, I spat him out and did it my way. I've got a million of them. Well, see, me and Jerry, maybe I could replace Dean. I could do
you could.
I can do that kind of voice.
They're looking for a replacement, I hear.
They have been.
Mm-hmm. I think they replaced him with Liza, but just for the moment. Elvis Costello is here at 101.9 KMPC FM, Glendale, Los Angeles. That makes it legal. And the new LP is called Spike. And were you surprised, or did you choose Veronica as the first? Is that something you choose as the first song to be played?
Well, when we were making it, I had the feeling that this was the one. It's up-tempo, and, it has got a lot of heart inside the lyric of the song. So it was deliberate for me that it had this very bright tune, as if it was about a young person, like a young girl or something. Mm-hmm. But when you look into the lyrics, it's actually about an old lady, So I kind of like the idea that here's this song going out now on pop radio, which is usually obsessed with youth. Mm-hmm. And I'm in the middle years of my life. It was a very good year. No, I'm 34, and
you look great. You look very. No, you do. You really do. You do. Too bad about that cough, but you look great.
Because if I just give up the Lucky Strikes now, it'd be all right. No, it's so I like the trick of being able to get a serious subject. You don't have to make every serious subject sort of down and miserable. There's a few songs on this album that are done in a very somber way, because there was no way to lighten it, there was no way to be ironic. But this particular song, I like the idea that people maybe were whistling it, on their way to work, as they mend their merry way to the subway. They whistle the tune, and then later on it gets through, that there is something a little bit sort of more a little bit more tender inside the song. So I like it when they choose this sort of song as a single because it works in both ways.
Well, let's listen to it. This is Veronica from Spike with Elvis Costello at 101.9 KMPC FM. Ah, very nice. Veronica.
Somebody switched those cellos off. Somebody clicked.
Is that what happened? You pulled the plug?
It's one of those mellotrons that were supposed to be a revolution. When they came in the 70s, everybody said, this is going to finish musicians.
Right.
And here we are using them like there's some antique... It's not actually a mellotron, it's a thing called a Chamberlain. It's a similar thing. And now we use them because of their antique quality. See, that's progress for you. One of these days, they'll look back at fairlights in the same way, and synthesizers. We'll look back at them like harpsichords. It's true.
I believe that.
Yeah.
It'll take a little while, but I believe
Let's
that.
hope it happens very soon.
Elvis Costello is here, nice enough to drop by and talk about his new album called Spike, and we might have gotten a call. We think we got a call from Spike Jones'
Yeah, you see,
daughter?
we only had to mention Spike Jones.
Niece. Okay.
His niece, Myra Jones.
Right.
Myra somebody, anyway, Myra, yeah. Well, hi, Myra, if you're out there. It is actually true. We were actually talking about Spike Jones the night we finished the record, because on a couple of the tracks we've got some wild percussion. And, sometimes when you listen to... Do you ever listen to a record and just hear one instrument? Particularly a record you listen to a lot of times. Suddenly you can have a record, say, by the Rolling Stones, and suddenly you'll notice just the cowbell.
Right.
It's a weird thing. And obviously when you mix a record, you listen to it an inordinate amount of times. It's not natural to listen to any music.
No, not that much.
And in the end, that's why people lose sometimes the perspective on a mix, is because they can't hear it anymore, because they go deaf from listening to it. They go deaf to the quality of the whole picture. And on this one occasion, I was listening to all this stuff, and I thought, this sounds like... People are going to laugh when they hear it. It sounds like Spike Jones. There you are, there's the title, Spike. It's snappy, I like it. It means the world of it.
Did you have another title it was going to be until you thought of that?
It was going to be The Beloved Entertainer, which is a sort of subtitle,
right.
But I thought people might take it seriously and think I'd gone all Barry Manilow on them,
But that's happened before. People...
Mandy,
I mean,
you came... Or sort of, they came to America. One of them, get the shirt open to the navel, and it's not a pretty sight.
That is his real name, Neil Diamond.
I don't doubt it for him. I don't. Listen, I won't hear a word said against Neil.
Okay.
He came and he wished me luck once. I played up the road again on this very hallowed street.
Yeah.
Played up the street at Hollywood High School in '78.
Oh, that's right.
And Neil came along before the show to wish us luck. And
really?
Yeah, he did. He actually came to the show.
How did he sound? What did he say?
He said, "Welcome to my country." He said, "You came to..." He did really say, "Welcome to my country." We said, "I didn't know we were in Hungary." He was he was a very nice guy. I asked the CBS guys, I said, "What's this Neil guy like?" I said, "We don't know. We've never met him before." He said he'd been on the label 20 years.
Right, he won't talk to them, but
Yeah.
you he talks to.
Yes, they see.
Me
and Neil were just like that.
So here's you
Just like
and
Cheech and Chong.
here's Neil, right? Elvis Costello is here. A lot of people calling, asking questions, but I'm going to be selfish. I'm going to be so selfish, I'm not even going to let your wife in the room.
Oh,
so there you go.
No,
I was just kidding. I'm just kidding about that. I know she's traveling with you, but this is your interview, so we're going to talk to you, okay? Is that all right? Okay. Now, who else is on the album? I know that Chrissy Hine is on the record.
She sings on one track, that's correct, called Satellite, and a wonderful group called the Dirty Dozen Brass Band from New Orleans, who jazz fans will probably know because they sort of, when you get deaded in New Orleans, they sometimes have those jazz funerals and they have those great bands. Well, that tradition obviously has been going on for, years and years and years. And these guys have sort of got a hold of that sound, and they sort of do their own sort of look at jazz through that style. So it's really a lot of different things. It's got some of the traditional New Orleans stuff about it. It's got some R&B in it. It's got a lot of great jazz music from Duke Ellington to Thelonious Monk and all kinds of stuff. And I saw them in New York City about 3 years ago, and I had their records and everything. And so I got on the phone and see what they'd make of my songs, and they were great, because I'm not too sort of schooled in the technical things of writing arrangements, that they persevered through my ignorance in those matters, and we managed to get some pretty good arrangements together, and I'm very glad to have them on the record. People should check them out when they've got a new record coming out actually very soon, I believe, on Columbia, and I'll even plug that even though it's on Columbia.
Well, you must really like them then.
Oh, well, they love me.
Let's hear one of the collaborations. This is Chewing Gum at 101.9 KMPC FM. I like that.
There you go.
I like that. Okay, so what were those instruments there that we heard?
That's the Dirty Dozen brass band there. We've got sets, 2 trumpets, 2 saxophones, sousaphone, trombone, I think. Yeah. And also Willie Green, the Neville Brothers drummer, is the drummer on that track. So I believe the Nevilles are here at the end of the week. So
yeah, that's right.
Unfortunately, I won't be able to say hi to those guys, but maybe some people can go and do it for me and go. You should definitely, if you haven't already got tickets, go and check them out. If you haven't seen them already,
we're giving away tickets.
If you haven't, I don't know what's the matter with you. You haven't seen them already.
Well, some people haven't heard.
A national treasure, the Neville Brothers. They should be definitely. Take down Mount Rushmore, put up the Neville Brothers. That's what I say.
Elvis Costello is here for just a few minutes more, and will there be a tour? A lot of people want me to ask you that.
Well, there is no major tour planned. As you can see, there's like 32 musicians on this record. We've got harp and uilleann pipes and Irish instruments. We've got the brass band. We've got like 2 or 3 different guitar players, all of which have all got their own careers as well. So there's the likelihood of them all being available, even if we could organize it, is very remote. So I think, honestly, the best way to present the songs is to go back to the beginning, to the way I wrote them solo. Now, unfortunately, America's a huge place, and you have to make a decision whether you're going to start West Coast and work East, which is what I did last time,
right,
or start East Coast and work West, which is what we're doing this time. So there's only so many places you can hit, and on this particular tour, they haven't managed to get us further than Chicago. So they're still building the railroad, but later in the year, I'm hoping, if everything goes well, I have to go back to Europe to do some shows. I'm doing the famous London Palladium, which is like playing Broadway or something.
Yeah.
And after that, I'm hoping that if things go well, that I might put together that band with 3 trombones and a banjo and come back and do some, sort of band shows, but not trying to recreate this album, because I feel this album is, we work very hard at getting these unusual balances together. The same magic wouldn't necessarily appear every night if you did it on stage. Sometimes, the rock and roll band lineup has developed over 30 years, and it's not for nothing that bass drums and a couple of guitars works great for that, and maybe that's what I'd like to do. And then I can play other tunes as well, older songs and maybe some even brand new songs.
So you still have interest in playing the old songs?
Some of them, yeah. I don't. I obviously want to do all of them. I don't feel the same way about all of the same, subjects of the songs.
Sure, of course.
You're bound to change. It would be something the matter with you. I still was 22, and walking around a 34-year-old body, it would be a bit daft. But there's some songs I still really like to sing, and I did my last record with the Attractions, and we could still. There's no reason really why we couldn't do another record.
You're still all friends, or just?
Yeah, it didn't work out for them to be on this record. I wanted to do lots of different things, and a couple of the guys wanted to do just them on this record, and I didn't see it that way. So, but we're grown up enough that we should be able to disagree about things and then come back to it if there's the good enough reason. But I wouldn't anybody hold their breath for us to go on a nostalgia tour,
No, please.
Us and the Clash or something, The good old good ones from the days of 79. Oh, yes, how we've loved them one. Rock the Casbah, I love that one. Yeah.
So there'll be none of that for Elvis Costello.
None of that.
We won't talk about your personal life, because like I said to you before, if you wanted to do that, you go on Oprah, right?
Yeah, well, actually, Geraldo.
Geraldo, that's right. Okay.
Listen, Geraldo came on the road once with me in 1978. He actually did a documentary about us on the road. It was sort of an expose.
I'll bet it was.
It was about would it be anything else with him? I know some terrible things about him, which I won't repeat now.
Oh, come on. Please.
No. We were in Ohio or somewhere like that, and he was... He had the notion that we were sort of punk rock, because we were the closest thing that he'd ever seen to it, I think, and certainly in attitude we were close to punk rock, I think. And he would run into supermarkets when we stopped to buy sodas and beers and stuff, kind of like a stop while the bus was getting gas.
Right.
And he'd rush up to women laden with shopping and go, so what do you think about punk rock? We'd go, I use it all the time, thinking they were going to get a free gift or something. He'd terrify these women. He's a bad man, that Geraldo. He's a bad man.
And he's on TV every song.
But all those. Heaven knows, I'm glad I know what's in Al Capone's hidden basement. I'm glad
we all know now.
Yeah.
But you did recently get married, and I can tell you're very happy. And I know you've collaborated musically.
Yeah, well, it's not all that recently. It's
How recent?
3 years now.
Ah.
3 years in May, so on Norwegian Independence Day. So
how
you can
nice!
check that out,
That's very nice.
Next year we're planning to go to Bergen to celebrate it.
Well,
this year it's Belfast. Next year it's Bergen.
Well, that's great. That's kind of
very romantic.
It is, sure, Belfast.
Yes, very romantic. Anyway, this is.
Yes.
I went out to buy a newspaper one afternoon, and when I got back, my wife said, I've written this song, and played me the tune, which he'd sung into the tape recorder, because she doesn't play the guitar. So my small contribution to this was just to put the chords behind this melody and her words. And this is a little kind of romantic ballad, which we'll say goodbye with. And thank you very much for having me in the studio.
Oh, no, thank you.
And
thank you.
This is called Baby Plays Around.
Thank you. We'll see you soon, I hope.
I hope so.
Elvis Costello from Spike. 1.9 KMPC FM.